We are down to 16, and the hardworking Emily Ehman is on her way to Louisville for what will be a regional. Later, Dan Meske, the assistant coach, will join us. So I found the shirt. It wasn't easy, when you move that stuff, but I went digging through everything, found my Louisville shirt. We'll talk about this with him, but how in the world did Northern Iowa not win that match? I mean, it was right there, and then all those serves, poor babies. I
Yeah, it was the
was,
serves.
yeah, yeah, it was
I,
tough.
I I mean, I couldn't. That was one of those matches that you're watching, and well, I'm watching as someone who's supposed to be headed to Louisville next week. And coming from Chicago, it's a lot easier to get to Louisville than it is to Palo Alto and Stanford. So I was like, oh God, if they lose this, I'm about to be on a lot of flights over the next few days. But it was, I mean, that's also one of those matches that like I was watching with a bunch of people that were naturally rooting for the underdog, and it was funny because in the fifth set, they're up 11 to 8, UNI is. And then they have four missed serves after point 14 on, multiple of those being on match point. And it's like Louisville didn't deserve to win that match at all. UNI absolutely did, but they found a way to lose it in like the most painful way possible. And it's so tough to swallow if you're on that team because you can't miss those serves. You can't even really miss one of those, let alone four of those after 14.
And for a program like that, Missouri Valley Conference team to
Yeah.
be in that situation, those opportunities are going to be fewer and farther between moving forward.
Yeah.
Because as we joke every week, the rich are just getting richer, and it's going to be even harder. And they were so close. You remember 2 weeks ago on Sunday, and I said two things that I believe that Stanford should have been the 4 seed and Louisville should have been the fifth. I'm saying all this now before Dan comes on, and then and also that Dayton should have had a top 16 seed, and
Yeah.
Dayton certainly justified that for Dayton. Obviously tough matchups. We'll go over the whole schedule. There are no gimmies coming up in this uh, round of 16.
No, and I think that's what's made this tournament so fun is it felt like every time I was turning to a game or a lot of us were watching the fifth set and every time we were bouncing back and forth, it felt like every match was going five and every match was exciting. And I don't feel like we've had that in past tournaments where it actually felt like these first few rounds, there were really compelling matchups with like really good games that were going to five that were really close. I mean, it was a really fun weekend.
Right, and there were actual upsets for a change.
Yes.
In the first round, and that in itself was
Yeah, we
something.
kick it off with Loyola taking down BYU, and everyone's brackets like, well, there goes that.
Yep, yeah. Well, I mean, Texas A&M beating Arizona State. I
Yep.
I really really was surprised by that,
I
and
mean, Logan Lednicki is if you haven't seen her live or you haven't watched A&M play, she is the real deal. I mean, she put up not only 27 kills, but she hit 500 in that match, which is absolutely insane to do against an Arizona State team that's very good defensively. I thought A&M was fantastic and so cool for Jamie Morrison. I mean, really trying to build that program kind of back up to where they were, and I think he's doing an awesome job. And it pays off in moments like this when you have players that just believe that they can do it.
well, the other big surprise for me was Florida winning at Kansas.
Oh, I picked that. That
Not
that
a
seemed cut
huge
and dry to
upset,
me.
but Kennedy Martin, who has been on a tear, she finishes with a career high 33 kills. But boy, in that fifth set, she was imploding. She had some really bad errors and then regrouped herself at the end. And
Yeah.
again,
I mean,
she's
Kansas is also such a tough place to win at. And I thought they just the composure that Florida had, being up, I think it was 5-1 to start off the fifth set. It kind of felt like they were just going to take control. And they find themselves down 12-11, and ended up getting the last few points to push it off. But I mean, Kennedy Martin is if she were at any other school than Florida, if she were at a top five school, she would be in that conversation, I think, with Olivia Babcock for Player of the Year. She is absolutely phenomenal. She's had five matches this season with 30 or more kills. That is absolutely insane. It's tough to even get one of those. To have five of them, it's crazy what she's been able to do this season, and she's a sophomore.
and did I see in passing that she actually posted on social media that to quell rumors that she's
Yeah.
going to transfer and
Like
whatever. I mean,
the
maybe
fact that
maybe the right number hasn't been dangled in front of her yet.
I mean, it's also just like the fact that she has to address that because clearly it's been so prevalent either in her social media or what she's seen on chatter that like, oh, of course she's going to leave next year because Florida's not a blah, blah, blah. Like some people want to be at a school because they either want to build it up, they really like the coach, they like the players, or they just want to be in Florida. She's a person that has consistently said she loves the culture of this program. She loves Mary Wise. And I mean, that sucked to see. Like I was just bummed that she felt the need to do that because of the online chatter. And like, I get again, money talks. I know revenue sharing is coming into consideration next season, and that's going to do a whole lot of things that we're already seeing, I think, happen in the portal. But it's crazy. Like I just felt bad that she felt the need to put that out in a time where she should have been really excited. That was just a bummer.
Well, to your point, excuse me, been coughing all day. To your point, in a post, you talked about how the portal's now open, and the
Yeah.
coaches who are those 16 coaches who are still in the tournament, and there's quite a few of those coaches whose teams are completely laden with transfers and wouldn't
Yep.
be here. I mean, you know, I mean, from every single one, I don't know anybody in there who's transfer free,
Yeah.
and uh, and to have to deal with that. And then I had one coach tell me, he's talking, that coach was talking about next year and what you're talking about, but NAL, transfer portal, and revenue sharing. And I said, how much do you think about it? And the response was, all the time, and it keeps me
You
awake at night.
You have to. And for coaches that I think for a lot of coaches too, what people don't understand is they don't have any control over that. That's from their administration, whether or not their program is getting money and how much money they're getting. Obviously, if you're at, a top program that invests a ton in volleyball, take a Texas, take a Nebraska, take a Wisconsin, of course you're going to be getting a lot more money than programs that maybe haven't historically put as much resources and investment into the sport. So it's something you have to think about, and it's going to shake out. To me, it's going to shake out in the transfer portal, which is tough to swallow, especially when it's happening during the tournament. Which I'm definitely interested to talk to Dan Meske about just how they navigate the portal headed into regionals while they're like all of these different things combining. Anyway, though, I digress. I mean, it was a hell of a weekend, and I think this weekend is going to be even more fun too, just with the matches that we have, and the high level of play for sure. I agree. None of these are gimmies.
The coaches of the top programs now, in many ways, are CEOs. They coach a little
Yeah.
bit less. You notice they're not the ones who prowl the sidelines. I mean, Jared Elliott spelled out for me last year or 2 years ago how many people who work in that program and how everybody's got responsibilities. And so if you're a top level Division I coach and you don't have a great staff to be able to handle the things that you have to leave as a head coach and do the things we're talking about.
Yeah.
So let me say this. I would be the first to admit that, we're not, we're neglectful, if you will, of Division II and Division III, but there's only so much of us to go around, meaning me. And, we can't do as much as we'd like. But an exception is what Juniata has just done in Division III. Not only won a third national championship in a row, but hasn't lost a match in forever. 97 in a row. And one of the more amazing things is that the team had lost two sets going into the NCAA tournament, won the first match in four, and then went down 0-2. Forget practicing for five. Um, Heather Pavlik, the coach there, is making me a little drunk with her moving of the phone. But hi, Heather. Oh,
Heather, you're muted.
you're still muted. We get you. Okay. Let's see. Maybe I can unmute you. I can.
There
No,
we go.
you got it. How are
Sorry,
you?
hard time. Apologize.
It's okay. Um, and so you heard me say though. So there they are against Hope College, down 0-2, and for starters, Heather's like totally nonplussed. Like you're not a ranter and a raver, are you?
No, I think I come by that honestly. My former mentor was very calm. And if there's anything I learned from him, I think that it is my job to stay calm for my players so that they always have somebody to kind of count on, not to get too worked up, either good or bad, and keep things a little even.
So you guys come back and you beat Hope. which, by the way, is an old town called Holland, Michigan, one of the coolest places ever, with the New Holland Brewing Company, one of my very faves. And then in the finals, that was Thursday, and then the final Saturday, you go up 2-0, dominant first two sets, I would say.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, Wisconsin Whitewater bowed up and beat you handily for 2 sets.
Yeah.
And Tom Heather's just cool. She's just happy, just hanging out. Her kids are taking business. They have the Emily. They got a Foley Coley. Is that what it is? It Foley Coley?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And yeah, you won the 5th set, and I was saying before you came on, your 3rd national championship in a row, and your 97th match in a row. How do you keep them dialed in for 97 matches in a row?
That was maybe what was unique about this group, is that there was definitely a stretch in October for us this year where we didn't necessarily get pushed by our opponents. I think the separator for our group was the fact that they would come into the gym every day and still try to get better. I think it would have been very easy after last season to kind of rest on our laurels, think, okay, we're really good. We just had an undefeated season. But this group was not content with that. We have a couple players that really are insanely competitive, and they continue to push, and they drug the rest of the group along with them. And so it really helped the coaching staff be able to get into the gym, still push to get better. And we knew it wasn't just us driving it, it was the players driving it.
Well, help me now on the so is Mackenzie Coley, is she the middle?
She is.
And then
I mean, the numbers that she puts up as a middle, how explain to people that maybe don't know what her role is and like how she became to be this. She's leading her team in kills per set. She's an absolute baller. She's hitting over 400 on the season. Like, she seems like one of a kind.
She is, but Juniata also has a history of some very successful middles. I think one of the things that we have always been known for is pushing middle. We've always said our middles more than everybody else. We've said many times that, our offense starts in the middle. And so it's very enticing to good middles to think that they're actually going to get set. So I think it helps us with recruiting for sure, when you can say you're actually going to get the ball. But Mackenzie is unique. She's unique in that she is bigger than the average middle we've had here. She's longer, but she really also has a really good arm. She's learned to work really hard. I think that's been the biggest improvement in her game, is she has learned to work really hard in transition. And that has changed everything. Her numbers skyrocketed at that point.
Well, the aforementioned Mackenzie Coley gets set by Olivia Foley, and her line in the final: a kill, 56 assists, an ace, 18 digs, and 2 blocks. And then the outside hitter, Kennedy Christie, she's just flat out a baller. And then you've got at least the libero, Kiona Sky Rousset Hernandez. You got to give me a little background on her before we get out of here.
Yeah. Sky actually has uncles that live in State College right over the mountain. And so when she was looking for somewhere to play, we were close by. She had come to camp here before because she had been to some of the Penn State camps that they had hosted here. So that's how we became acquainted with her. But she, from the very start, her very first year here, it was very obvious how good she was going to be. She is relentless. She pursues everything. She's insanely competitive. She's a dominant server, and she was from the very start. So she's kind of unique in that she's our best server, along with being a phenomenal defensive player and a great passer.
You've got a bunch of, she's one of many really, really good Puerto Rican liberos in America.
Yes.
And at all levels. So I had said right before you got on, I know I'm a slacker with D3 and don't give you guys enough, made sure I got that, the result in and got this opportunity to talk to you, but I got to have a little bit of fun. You have more championships in your household now than the other people who live there.
Yeah, well, we don't talk about that.
Heather's husband, Mark, who coaches the Penn State men, is one of the greatest guys in all of volleyball. And the two of you together are really something. I think today you're the first family of volleyball. I'm giving you that.
Well, thankfully, I appreciate that.
I love that.
Yeah. Heather, thanks a lot for hanging out with us, and congratulations. And 98 is just around the corner.
Yeah, I guess so. We'll see.
Thank you. Congrats, Coach.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. That was great. I'm watching both of their matches and thinking, oh no, because I wanted to pump them up properly.
Yeah.
And that opportunity was going to be lost if they lost. I mean, not that we could have reached out to another coach, but again, I said I'm a D3 slacker.
There you go.
Yeah, someone like yourself who you could have gone to a smaller school
Yeah.
and played a lot.
Yeah. Oh, I had a ton of offers. Like DePaul, Hanover, a lot of like local Indiana schools, some smaller D1 programs too. I actually had a few. I was a track athlete in high school too, so something that I was looking at potentially doing was volleyball and track.
I
I
did
also
not know that.
realized,
What events?
oh, high jump, long jump, hurdles. I was a jumper, Lee. I could touch. Once upon a time, I could touch 10 feet.
You touched the rim?
Yeah, I'm a 10'8" and I could touch 10 feet. I was a baller. I mean, this is why I like Chloe Chacoin so much because she's everything that I wanted to be in an outside. She's exactly my height and she's like just phenomenal. So every time I watch her, I'm like, God, I love her, but I'm also just like so jealous of her.
Are you going to get to watch? Have you seen Dayton and
Um,
Lexington
I've watched it and I haven't seen him in person.
Yeah, I mean, another 5'8". Um,
Yeah.
uh,
And even
before
Charity Looper from Louisville, I think
five
she's
eight.
like 5'9", like
Oh, she's
maybe.
listed at 5'9". She's 5'8".
I mean, but she can just absolutely jump through
Su-
the gym. So that's like a little bit different of a story.
superior hops. So there are some small people in there. There are 5 Big Ten schools, 5 SEC schools, which I color me shocked. You know, and the ACC's got 3, and then 2 from the Big East, Creighton and Marquette. And we probably
Mm.
haven't given enough thought and conversation to Marquette because the Marquette Penn State match is going to be a good match.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so uh, Dan Meske is the assistant coach at Louisville, which Emily will see him and she's like, let's get Dan on. And I was like, yeah, I was actually thinking about that. But Dan, I got to tell you, so my daughter, Stacy, her daughter plays high school volleyball and she coaches club now and she's gotten deep into it. And she says, tell Dan, I'm a huge fan. He's made coaching and learning fun because she
That's
follows you on
awesome.
social media. What have you done?
Oh, I'll keep them coming. So I think it was about 2 years ago. I just started posting like crazy on Instagram of just insights into our program. And I get that a lot and it's what keeps me going. So I love hearing that and I'll keep them coming. So I post on game day. Sometimes I've got a whole blog of stuff we do, but I try to keep up with it. So stuff like that keeps me rolling on it. I appreciate it. I'll keep it coming for. So thank you.
Honestly, there's a lot of stuff for me too, because obviously I'm very dialed into social and that like I learn a lot watching your videos, or it's like a nice refresh for me because sometimes, like announcing can get so in the weeds of, specific things, but maybe a different like aspect that I didn't think about. And like there's been a lot of times before a game where I'm watching and I'm like, oh, that's a good, reverse like analysis of something, or I don't know, things like that that makes me, I feel like better at my job.
That's cool. So I learn a lot posting too, because sometimes in the comments they just like shred me. They're like, "Don't anybody do this. This is terrible." And then I have to think like, "Is this? We do believe in this, right? We are going to
Yeah.
keep doing this."
You're like,
But
wait,
it's always
is this correct?
fun to put stuff out there.
Look, I've been to Louisville practices and I've watched Dan coach and teach, and your practices are good and crisp. And, the information you put forth and the techniques that you guys use. I mean, most of the good teams, I can say that. Every once in a while, I'll go to a team's practice and go, how are these guys any good? And no, seriously. But no, the times that I've been to see Louisville, you guys are real crisp and it's real organized. And can you just tell us a little bit about the division of duties that you guys have, especially during a match?
Yeah. So, well, I run our defense. So yeah, we get a question a lot too of like, I'm kind of standing up and Danny's, sitting down and I'm constantly reacting to what the opponent's doing. So I'm running our defense, watching the opponent. That's one of the things that I miss out on during the year is I watch all the other teams and I end up watching our team a fraction of what I watch other teams because I'm constantly breaking down defenses. Danny, on the other hand, runs our offense. So she's constantly watching our team and how we can get more crisp. So she's training our setters. I'm specifically training our middles and doing our defense. Todd Chamberlain is the best recruiting coordinator in the country, and he also trains our outsides. And then CC McGraw finished up at Minnesota, awesome career there 2 years ago, and has just is in the middle of her second season with us and trains our liberos. So what a great former awesome player to be training our liberos as well.
You remember that time I was in Louisville and we all had lunch? Oh, no, wait, you weren't there. You weren't
I
there.
think I missed that. Yeah, that was when my kids were littler. Now I don't miss those things as much. The rest of the
first
stuff is
day on
I
the
got
job.
little kids.
Yeah, it was Cece's first day, and she was like a deer in headlights, and she's really
Aw.
embraced it and done a nice job. So anyway, the other day, you're playing this breather against Northern Iowa.
Yeah.
And, oh my gosh, what a an incredibly competitive, fantastic match to just watch. Regardless of who you were rooting for. But there had to be times throughout that match, but especially in the fifth set, where your innards were in knots.
Yeah. I mean, as a coach, it's like you're always coaching the next point, but there's times where you're like, we're out of this. Like, how are we gonna win this? What is gonna have to happen? And you have to get a little bit of luck. And we talked about that after the game too, of like you create a little bit of your own luck too, because we had a phenomenal season to be able to earn the right to host. And I really thought our crowd came into it in the fifth. Our crowd was just awesome in the fifth. And obviously there was some timely missed serves that went our way. And it seems like there's randomness to that. But again, it felt like, hey, we worked so hard this year to have this crowd behind us in this moment. Let's really step up for them. But man, yeah, I'm still coming down from it, to be honest, like from an emotional standpoint. Could not sleep that night. When I did finally fall asleep, I woke up like an hour later. My heart was still racing. I mean, there's a very, very few matches that stick out like that, where I've been playing and coaching now for 20 plus years. And there's maybe one other match that felt like that. My first year at Nebraska, we were down 9-3 at Washington, and some magical comeback that we had with Jordan Larson and that whole crew. But again, it's like there's like two matches maybe that kind of felt like that ever. I may never have another one. It was awesome.
I think what stood out to me was right after the match ended and Anna De Beers crying. And I had never seen her cry before. I mean, she's a player that is like always so stoic. You don't see a ton of emotion out of her. And to watch her just completely take over in the fifth. And I think watching, if you know the behind the scenes of like, she's from Louisville, playing in Louisville, wanting home court, blah, 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 all these things, to put up 6 kills in the fifth set, even when everyone knows she's getting the ball. I think everyone in the gym and everyone watching is like, okay, well, they're going to feed De Beer because that's what you have to do. From your perspective, like what is she like in those big moments that we don't see?
She's like, what is she like? She steps up in so many different ways. She's super resilient. I always think like a tennis ball. It's like you can squeeze it as hard as you want. It's going to pop back and it's still going to be a tennis ball. That's like De Beer. You have so many different ways you can try to take her out of what she does, but she has so many different ways to come back. And the thing that stuck out for me, honestly, in that match is she took over multiple timeouts, which she hadn't really done throughout her career. Like you talked about our duties with our program, like we're a pretty well-oiled machine at this point with, Todd, myself, and Danny being together for 7-8 years. And so we take a timeout and we kind of know what we're doing. I mean, in the second set, De Beer was like, boxed us out and was like, I got this. It's not about volleyball right now. It's about what we're doing. And I hadn't seen her do that throughout her career. So she did that multiple times. And then to see her step up the way she did in the fifth, I don't think surprised anyone who's been around her, seen what she's done. But man, she's crying. And yeah, she right in the lot, like I was one of the first persons, people that saw her in the locker room, gave her a huge hug. And she was like, I thought I was never going to wear a Louisville jersey again. I mean, she's fighting off that too. I mean, you can't not feel that in that moment of how rare it would be to come back from this.
Yeah.
Dan, I didn't think she was going to wear a Louisville jersey again either, in that fifth set. But I said I was watching that match with my aforementioned daughter and granddaughter talking in Sydney, who's become quite a good analyst of the game, asked me what I thought. And I said, I think that there's an X factor. It's Kara Kress. And now the kid thinks I'm really smart because I was right. 14 blocks. Are you kidding?
Yeah, and I think maybe a Louisville record for sure. Her record for blocks. Last year she was such an offensive threat for us. She's kind of shifted to more of a defensive impact for us. But I totally agree with you. Just her presence at the net was huge. 25 blocks we had as a team. It's the first time I've ever seen a number that high on a box score. I've never been a part of a match like that. The flip side of that too was, I mean, you and I killed 70 balls. I've got the stat sheet in front of me because I've looked at it like for the last 3 days. It's such a weird match to look at on paper. And again, I learned a lot from that match too, of how you and I attacked us and what they did. Anybody who's trying to play a match like that, study what you and I did. I mean, they came out and they were fearless. They made 45 hitting errors. And it felt like we squeaked out a win. I mean, that's crazy.
But, I also think that they mirror you. They're just a little bit less talented and a little bit smaller, but they play extremely the same way that you do. And both teams are super gnarly on defense, serve tough, and extremely well coached. Bob Peterson's a great coach.
Yeah, well, that's a huge compliment to hear too, because I mean, they play great. And again, I actually hadn't thought about that till you mentioned that, of how similar we are. Obviously, 6'2s, we're in the same system, but their bro, Aaron Powers, that was one of the best bros we've played all year. And we were talking, I think she's done. I think she was a senior, but I don't know if she got drafted by PVF or whatever. We're like, where is she going to end up playing? I mean, she was so exceptional in that match. I'd be curious to follow her career moving forward. She was 25 digs. I mean, she was exceptional. And again, you talked about their great defense. That was one of the things that really put us back on our heels a little bit. It was very, very impressive what they did.
And talking styles, I think even looking ahead, obviously Purdue's not in a 6-2, but I think just stylistically in the pieces that you guys have, like on paper, you guys are so similar, and just the mentality of the programs, like very gritty, very work hard. Like, I mean, Eva Hudson and Anna DeBeer are very similar to me in the sense of like, I would never want to face them across the net. Like they just get that look in their eye and like I would be terrified. So I think I'm excited for Thursday just because this matchup's going to be, it just feels like it's going to be a lot to grind it out.
Yeah. Well, it's, I have a mentor I talk to a lot on the men's side at Long Beach, Nick, and he always talks about, he's like, your lefts, your pins are going to be what it is in the tournament. And you just nailed it. It's like for two teams that are just so defined by their pins, by their lefts in particular, the pins that step up are the ones that are going to be moving on. And it seems like it always comes down to that. But yeah, obviously different systems with Purdue. For me personally, like my best friend in coaching is their assistant coach, John Klanick. Him and I do a podcast together, and we were talking as we were doing it this year. We're like, we're just destined to play each other in the tournament. I can tell, because me and him had spent so much time chatting, much like you guys do. And so sure enough, we're playing them in the Sweet 16. It's funny, another storyline with Purdue in 2021, the year that we really broke onto the scene. I look at the Purdue match we played against them as the match that propelled our team to think like, hey, we're good, because we had played Purdue. We got here in 17. We played them every year, and we would go 5 or we'd go 4, and we just couldn't beat them. And then we finally beat them in 2021. I think our team was like, hey, we can hang with these top teams. So it's been a really cool rivalry that we haven't played each other every single year, but there's been this kind of just, again, kind of under the radar rivalry between us and Purdue. So it'll be an exciting match.
I love that.
Get you out of here on this. Over your right shoulder is a belt that looks like it could have been stolen from the Ali Museum. What's the story?
You want a shot at the title there? That's my that's my Stone Cold Steve Austin belt there. So, you guys do like the stud of the day or whatever. I think that's one that's left over from back in the day, but I didn't have the heart to get rid of it. My boys at home are probably wondering where it's at.
Now they're going to find out.
Okay, before we let you go, I've got one more question, and we kind of were talking about this earlier, but just from your perspective as an assistant and like still coaching in the tournament right now, the portal's open. Like, how do you manage recruiting, but also game planning? Like, it seems like every coach that's still in it, I'm sure you guys have so much going on with like wanting to, look at players, but also having to have these massive matchups coming up.
That's a great question. I mean, I'd be lying if I said the portal wasn't a tab that's obviously open on my computer right behind you here. But that's when you have to have great division amongst staff of like who's doing what. And for me, I've been so deep in, I do a lot of the game prep. So I've been so deep in Purdue and the rest of the teams we could potentially face at that, at that regional. But again, I think it's for teams that are still going. We've taken the thought of like, hey, if we're going to do this, we obviously have to talk about it, but we're not taking visits while we're trying to win with this team. I think that sets the wrong tone moving forward. But clearly, there's teams that might have an advantage by being done in the fact that they can have visits this week, and our windows for recruiting and stuff are all kind of catching up to the portal. But yeah, it's definitely something you have to deal with. But we deal with that trying to get to high school matches during our season, and it doesn't work so much anymore with my beard. But we used to say recruiting's like shaving; you have to do it every day, or you look crummy pretty quick. And that's kind of true. You're always recruiting. So,
Dan, we'll see you in your hometown next week. Win, lose, or draw.
All right. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for what you guys do too. I always listen to these, so I appreciate being on them. Thank you.
Thank you. I got your regional, so I'll see you on Wednesday.
All right. Safe travels to the Ville. Go Cards.
Thank you.
Thanks. We need to look at, this is 1 week where you didn't have to send me the key matches.
It helps.
Yeah.
And there's only 8 of them.
Dan was great, by the way. And
awesome.
Yeah, we could do, hours with him. Of course, he's got his own podcast, but that's no 900 square feet. Pittsburgh, Missouri at Kentucky. Obvious upper hand Kentucky because, they've beaten them in the league, but neutral site,
And Mizzou took down SMU, and they right now look like the toughest serving team. I mean, they put up 11 aces against SMU, completely took control. If Kentucky can't pass, then that could be the difference.
100%. Oregon versus Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's better, should win, but Oregon is good, and Oregon's a gamer and has a great NCAA tournament coach in Matt Ulmer.
And a really good blocking team. I think that's something to think about here. Obviously, Pitt's offense is completely dominant, but if Oregon can slow them down, they'll be in it.
At Louisville, Florida versus Stanford. They've had some epic matches, both in the regular season and, in fact, Kevin Hambley's first year at Stanford lost in the semifinals to Florida, which then lost in the national championship match to Nebraska. I think I have that right. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then Purdue versus Louisville, which I think we both agree that's going to be
fun.
That is truly a pick 'em.
I mean, I'm obviously biased, but I think I have the best regional. I am so excited. I mean, I think Florida Stanford's going to be a lot closer than people think. If Kennedy Martin can go off, it's a difference maker. And then
No,
obviously Louisville Purdue. To me, that matchup to me, Texas Creighton I think is another one, but Louisville Purdue should be a really fun all out battle.
I look at Purdue and I see Northern Iowa again, and I see Louisville, and I see two teams that, I mean, Louisville's 27-6.
Yeah.
I mean, Purdue is 27-6. Louisville's 27-5, and Purdue, plays in the Big Ten, which obviously, I think that's just going to be epic. Florida Stanford, the Stanford team that when it has played its very best, and usually it's only for 8-10 points in a row, is the best team. Nobody plays those stretches as good as them, in my opinion. Nobody from top to bottom is better than Pitt. Anyway, scrolling down to the Penn State regional, Texas versus Creighton. Oh my gosh, that should be
fun, huh? So fun. That's going to be fun. I think one, Texas is very much trending upward. Maddie Skinner is trending upward. Would I ever want to face Maddie Skinner in a tournament? Absolutely not. This is Creighton's chance to prove that they can hang with the top teams and they can beat them, because this Texas team, I know they're a 3 seed right now, but they're not playing like it.
As I mentioned to you all season long in the Volleyball Mag Super 16 media poll for at least the last 5 weeks, 6 weeks, Creighton was my number 3. And then Marquette versus Penn State. Penn State's better, playing at home, favored, but Ryan Tice and Marquette, probably the most under-assumed story of this whole tournament.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
We'll see what they can do at Rec Hall. I mean, that's a tough place to play.
Yeah. And then at Nebraska, Texas A&M and Wisconsin.
Who already played this season, which was very early on. Wisconsin kind of handled them, but this is a different Texas A&M team than what we saw a few months ago.
And then Dayton, Nebraska. And, on both counts, Wisconsin is better than Texas A&M. Nebraska is better than Dayton. But the Texas A&M Wisconsin one, I expect to be a tough battle. And then I think Dayton will do itself proud against Nebraska.
Yeah. I'm excited. I mean, it's going to be, we always talk about how, these regional matchups, usually the regional finals, so the, equivalent of the Elite Eight, those matchups always kind of end up being the most fun. It's just going to be such a fun weekend. Could not be more excited. I'm also really happy that ESPN spread them out, so we get 4 days of action. They're not all crammed together. They're 2.5-hour windows. Also, just to plug, I know they're doing, ESPN is doing studio coverage for all of these matchups. So if there's fill time in between, there's a lot of feature content coming out about specific players, specific teams. I did a long sit down with Katie Schumacher-Cawley from Penn State to talk about her journey this season battling breast cancer, bringing Penn State back to greatness. That's best season since 2017. So, even if the match is over, there's going to be a lot of really good feature pieces and analysis between the matches. So definitely keep your TV on.
Well, there's some feature, a half-hour show that I didn't even know about.
Yeah, there's the Game On.
Yeah, with Katie George.
Yep.
Game On. Women, it had a.
So Cammie Minor is on there. Pitt has one as well. They've been slowly churning them out. There's going to be one on Sarah Franklin coming up.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, they are so good, and it's so cool that volleyball is doing this. So if you want to learn more about these programs and more about a lot of the stars too, they're really well done.
And if you need some volleyball before Thursday, get the NIVC. Nothing Monday, but excuse me, Wednesday, Arkansas State versus Northern Colorado, and Wyoming versus Arizona. And then also on Thursday, I think we got a little bit. No, maybe, I don't know. But NIVC, yeah, I linked to it in there. You go find it. Anyway,
It's in the thing.
that's enough. All right. Hey, we're coming down the home stretch. It's December 9th. The last match is December 22nd. We can do this, Emily. We can get through these next however many days.
I mean, honestly, it's fun now because yes, we're super busy, but everything's fun. Like these matches are going to be so exciting. Like how blessed are we to be able to, cover this? I'm so excited. I could cry.
Well, there's so much to be said about the way the tournament was put forth and allowing them to travel more. You can nitpick over some of the little seeds, and I will. Did I mention Dayton should have been seeded? No, whatever. Anyway, but it's really created a good tournament matches, and no matter whatever happens, the kids always make it balance out right, and they have. She is the inimitable Emily Ehman of the Big Ten Network, but in this case ESPN, and she'll be in Louisville, and I'll be watching on multiple screens.
Well, you won't have to.
I know that's true. I know everything's spread out properly.
That's why it's great. You don't have to track all this stuff. Like everything
at once, like I did last past.
You get to watch one match and focus on one match. That's what makes it so exciting. I'm pumped.
Good. All right. Thanks for watching us, and thanks for. We'll come back. I don't know that we'll have time to do one next Monday before.
Yes, we will. We have to.
She says we are. We will. Okay. And I do whatever Emily says.